Hi, my name is Bibek Adhikari. I am an English instructor. In today's class, we are going to solve the grammar portion of Unit 11, that is Subject and Verb Agreement. So let's begin. Alright, we are now going to start the grammar portion of Unit 11, which is Subject-Verb Agreement. Although you are probably already familiar with the basic Subject-Verb Agreement, this chapter begins with a quick review of basic agreement rules. So let's do a quick review. Subjects and verbs must agree with one another. Subjects and verbs must agree with one another in number, that is either singular or plural. So in number, that is singular or plural. Correct? Thus, if a subject is singular, its verb must also be singular. If a subject is plural, its verb must also be plural. Right, so this is the basic rule and we'll elaborate this basic rule. Wait, let's just do that. So let's talk about nouns and verbs, right? So when we use singular noun, I'm going to write S-I-N-G-U-L-A-R, okay, full form, singular. When we use singular nouns, let's take an example, boy, right? Let's say we are now working on plural noun, and what would be the plural of this? Boys, right? So what's added? Something called s is added. So this is the addition that is done. And in case of verbs, let's talk about a singular verb. Give me a singular verb. Wait, first give me a plural verb. Go is a plural verb, while goes is a singular verb. So what is added? Es is added. Another example, buy is a plural verb. Buys is a singular verb. What is added? S is added. So this is the addition that is done. So nouns and verbs, they make plurals in opposite ways. Nouns form plurals by adding s, while verbs form singular by adding s. So just the opposite way. You see, they form singular and plural the opposite way. So this was the quick review. Now let's revise rule number 1. Then we'll go and study different rules in detail. Let me give you some example. The dog chases the cat. So this is the sentence, right? Now, what is a dog? It is the dog. It is a subject. Correct? What is the cat? It is the object, right? So where's the verb? The verb is here. This is what we call the verb. Is it a singular verb or a plural verb? Since it ends on s, we call it a singular verb. Now, is it a singular subject or a plural subject? It is a singular subject. So singular subject takes singular verb. Noun subject followed by verb. So what is the rule? The first basic rule. What is it? The first basic rule is singular subject, I'm writing SS, takes singular verb, SB. Singular subject takes singular verb. Now let's go to the second part of the first rule. Plural subject takes plural verb. Right, let's do that. The dogs chase the cat. Now let us look at this example. The dogs. So what is this? It is called plural subject followed by a verb, indeed. So what it chase? Chase is plural verb because no s is used, so it's a plural verb. Now what's the rule? This is the plural form, right? What's the rule? The basic rule is plural subject takes, I'm writing PS for that, plural verb. This is another rule. Plural subject takes plural verb. Singular subject takes singular verb. Plural subject takes plural verb. That is the basic rule number 1 of subject-verb agreement. Correct? So do you know that these agreement rules do not apply to verbs used in the simple past tense without any helping verbs? Do you know what that means? Let me help you with that one. If I write something like the girl talked to me, or if I write something like the girls talk to me. So did you notice the thing I'm talking about? The girl is singular, the girls is plural, and the verb is not changed. That is the main thing. Talked is not changed. So no matter the subject, the verb remains the same. So this is what we call exception. Grammar is full of exceptions. It is also called the science of exception. So this is the exception we were talking about. Verb did not change. Talked remained as talked, no matter the number of the subject. Correct? The agreement rules do, however, apply to the following verbs, helping verbs, when they are used with a main verb, like is, are, was, were, has, have, and does, do. Like you can say the girl has talked to me, and the plural would be the girls have talked to me, right? Now let's go and study some basic rules. Let's start with some rules. Rule number 1. What is rule number 1? Let me first write 2 examples for you. Then we'll talk about the rule. A bouquet of yellow roses lend color and fragrance to the room. There is something essentially wrong with this sentence, and I want you to find the mistake right now. Something is inherently wrong with this sentence. Can you spot the mistake? A bouquet of yellow roses lend color and fragrance to the room. What is the mistake? A bouquet of yellow roses lends, not lend. So why not lend and lends? Because, bouquet lends, not roses lend. Did you see my point? Bouquet lends, roses lend. So we are talking about bouquet. We are talking about bouquet lends. We are not talking about roses. So of yellow roses, it's something else. We are not describing this part. So we are only talking about a bouquet lends. So what is the rule? A subject will come before a phrase beginning with of. Beginning with the word of. Then what happens? This is the key rule for understanding subjects. The word of is the culprit in many, perhaps most subject-verb mistakes. So we should always take the subject that is before of. So subject is before of, and accordingly we choose the verb. So subject-verb agreement should be there. So, many hasty writers, speakers, readers, and listeners might miss the all too common mistake in the following sentence. So this sentence I was talking about. So a bouquet of yellow roses lends color and fragrance to the room. Bouquet lends, not roses lend. So we always look at the first subject of the sentence. What is the first subject? Something that is before the word of, right? Of. Okay, that is rule number 1. Let's go to rule number 2. Now we go to rule number 2. In rule number 2, let me write some examples. First, my aunt or my uncle is arriving by bus today. Let me write one more example. Neither Agaman nor Adit is available. So let's find out the verbs first and subjects. First subject is aunt, another subject is uncle. What is the verb? The verb is. The first subject is Agaman, another subject is Adit. What is the verb? Available. You see, that is the verb. So what is the rule? Now we can derive the rule, What is the rule? The rule is 2 singular subjects, that is subject 1 followed by subject 2. There is some kind of connector in between. So what connector? Connected by what? Connected by or, either or, neither nor. They require a singular subject, right? So we are talking about singular subjects, not plural subjects. So my aunt is singular subject. My uncle is also singular subject. They are connected by the word or. So we need a singular verb, not a plural verb. Neither argument, that is singular subject, nor Adit, singular subject again, is available. So here is the verb, is available. Available is not the verb. I'm sorry for that. So is available, right? So the singular verb is used. Let's go to rule number 3. Rule number 3. Let me give you examples first. Neither the plates nor the serving bowl goes on that shelf. So this is the example. Now I guess you have already derived the rule. The first, let's look at the subject. This is what we call the plural subject. I'm writing SP for that. Bowl, ball, this is singular subject. So we use a singular verb because this is what we call singular verb. At first we have plural subject, and in the second place we have a singular subject. So the sentence goes something like this: neither the plates nor the serving bowl goes in that cell. So why do we use goes? Why not go? Because the subject that follows towards the end is singular. So we use the singular verb. Now, you know the rule, right? We have subject 1 connected something by subject 2. And what are these words? Connectors. They are either or, neither nor, or simply or. So these are the words. Now what's the rule? The verb in an or, either or neither nor sentence agrees with the noun or pronoun closest to it. Right? So that is the rule. We look at the closest subject. Now let's go to rule number 4. We come to now rule number 4. What is rule number 4? Let me write you some examples first. A car and a bike are my means of transportation. A car and bike are my means of transportation. So we have a car here, followed by a bike, subject 1, connected by and, subject 2. So this is called a compound subject. So we need a plural verb. That's why the verb are is used. We've got a plural verb here. Sorry, plural verb, not subject. So it's a plural verb here. So we used a plural verb. As a general rule, use a plural verb with 2 or more subjects when they are connected by and. Because what is the connector? Connector is and, but there's an exception to it. So let me write the exception. Breaking and entering is against the law. Now, did you see the difference? Breaking and entering. So this is acting as a singular subject, only S1. We should use a singular verb. So breaking and entering, they are considered as compound nouns. What are they considered as? Compound nouns. That's why compound nouns, they take singular verbs. Now let's go to rule number 5, the first portion of rule number 5. Rule number 5, so 5a, first rule of rule number 5. Let me write the example first. The politician, comma, along with the newsman, comma, is expected shortly. So we have a singular noun here, followed by a plural noun here. But what do we use as a verb? That is my concern. We use a singular verb. And why do we do that? Because sometimes the subject is separated from the verb by words like along with, sometimes as well as, sometimes besides, sometimes even the word not. So these words, they separate the verb from the subject. If these words and phrases are not part of the subject, ignore them and use a singular verb when the subject is singular. And if the subject is plural, use a plural verb. That is my concern. I mean, that is the rule, the default rule. So along with newsman is not the subject here. So the answer is the politician is expected shortly. Does that make any sense? Yes, it does. And let's go to rule number 5b. Rule number 5, number B. Let me write an example first. Chris and his trusty dog. Chris and his trusty dog is always welcome to my house. Chris and his trusty dog is always. And why do we use is instead of are? Why not are? Because the subject is Chris. The subject is not the trusty dog. And that's why the rule goes something like this. Parenthesis. Parenthesis. These two parentheses not the part of the subject. So what is the subject in this sentence? Chris is the subject, so we take this verb. This is not the subject. Whatever is inside the parenthesis is not considered as the subject. And if this seems awkward, try rewriting this sentence. Right now, let's go to rule number 6. Rule number 6. And what is that? First, in sentences beginning with here or there, the subject follows the verb. That is the rule. Let's understand what the rule is. There are 4 people in the ground. There is a man at the door. So we use are in the first place and is in the first place. What determines the verb? In fact, the subjects, they determine the verb. 4 people, that is a plural subject, so it takes plural verb. A man is a singular subject, so it takes a singular verb. That is the rule. Another example is this. Here is New York. Or here is New York. Right? So is used because New York is singular. Let's go to rule number 7. Rule 7. We come to rule 7 now. 3 miles is too far to walk. Let me write you another example. $10 is a high price to pay. $10 is a high price to pay. Right? $10 is a high price to pay. 3 miles, we use is. Dollars, again, we use is. And these subjects, S1 and S2, they look like plural subjects, but they are in fact singular subjects. So use a singular subjects, singular verb with distances, period of time, sums of money when considered as a unit. So with what? With distances, with periods of time, and with sums of money. When they are considered as a bulk, as a unit, we use the singular verb. Right, now let's go to rule number 8. Rule number 8. What is rule number 8? A lot of the pie has disappeared, full stop. Another example. All of the pies are gone. Now, if you look at these 2 examples, you will see some difference. A lot of the pie has disappeared. All of the pies are gone. So this is a singular verb, while this is a plural verb. And why this variation? That is my question. With words that indicate portions, example, a lot of, majority, some, all, rule 1 given earlier in this section is reversed. And we are guided by the noun after of. If the noun after of is singular, use a singular verb. If it is plural, use a plural verb. So if you remember rule number 1, very good. So we consider whatever in front of as the subject, correct? Now we don't do that. We consider whatever that comes after of as the subject. So subject comes after of, so it has to agree with the verb. The verb has to in fact agree with the subject. So it is just the reverse of rule number 1. It is the reverse of rule number 1. Good? Right, let's go to rule number 9. Some examples first. All of my family has arrived. Or do we use have arrived? Another example is most of the jury is here. Or do we use are here? So I don't know, think about it. This is rule number 9. So with collective nouns such as group, jury, family, audience, population, the verb might be singular or plural depending on the writer's intent, right? So we are talking about collective nouns. Do you know what collective nouns are? Think about it. Do you remember the different types of nouns that are used in the English language? English language has got 5 types of noun, including the common noun, proper noun, collective noun, abstract noun, and what noun? Oh, I forgot one. So these are collective nouns. Family, jury, they are collective nouns. All of my family have arrived here. Most of the jury are here. So you can either use singular or plural. There's no hard and fast rule on this. but know why you are using singular. All of my family has arrived. If you use singular, you are talking of your family as a bulk, as a singular unit. All of my family have arrived. If you talk like that, if you say something like that, you are regarding your family as a disjointed bunch of people, and there are many people, so it's not a singular unit, something like that. Grammatically, that is what it means. Both are correct. Feel free to choose the best you like. Now let's go to the last rule. Rule number 10, the last rule. First, start from the examples. If Aman were here, you would be happy. Does this sentence sound correct to you? So the word were replaces was in sentences that expressions of which are contrary to the fact. You see, whenever we are talking about type 2 conditional, we use were instead of was. And why do we do that? Now the question is, shouldn't Aman be followed by was, not were, given that Aman is singular? But Aman isn't actually here. So we say were, not was. The sentence demonstrates the subjunctive mood, which is used to express things that are hypothetical, wistful, imaginary, or factually contradictory. The subjunctive mood pairs singular subjects with what we usually think of as plural verbs. Right? This is what we call the subjunctive case. What case? The subjunctive mood, because it is talking about something that is hypothetical. You can say something like, I wish it was Friday. I wish it were Friday, You get too tired in the middle of the class and you say something like, I wish it were Friday. I wish it were Friday. You can even say, I wish it was Friday. That is also fine in spoken English. But in written English, were is better. So in the first example, a wishful statement, not a fact, is being expressed. Therefore, were, which we usually think of as a plural verb, is used with the singular it. I wish it were Friday, right? Technically, it is singular subject of the object clause in the subjunctive mood. It were Friday. So we have a subjunctive mood here. Can you see? So the subjunctive mood is this one. It were Friday. So this is what we call the subjunctive mood. Technically, it is wrong. But we are talking about a wishful statement. That's why we use the plural verb there. That is rule number 10. Now I should give you some homework because I taught you 10 rules. Now it's my time to give you some homework. And the homework are complete, very easy, all the questions from study portion. That is question number 1 and 2. Revise the 10 rules if necessary. So this is the homework. Complete all the questions from study portion, that is 1 and 2, which is given in your book. There are 10 questions there. Revise the 10 rules if necessary and solve those questions. I guess they're very easy questions. Can you do this? Sure you can. Right. With this, we have come to end of today's class. If you have any questions or suggestions regarding this video series, feel free to write us at learning@deerwalk.edu.np. Thank you.